The relationship between government and the business community has been a rocky one since the COVID-19 outbreak. Most businesses were forced to scale down or completely shut their doors due to the lockdown regulations. Now, this has further slowed job creation opportunities, access to major sectors, amongst many other things. There are concerns now that the second wave of COVID-19 will make the situation even worse for many entities. To help us understand where we are, how the matter should be handled, and where we're likely to land up, let's bring in Cas Coovadia, who's CEO of Business Unity South Africa. Mr. Coovadia, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM report. At this point, this juncture, if you like, as we take stock of the months gone by, I usually reflect on things I term unfinished business. What do you think still needs to be done today, given what we know about COVID-19 and our economy, to stave off a worst case scenario?
Well, I think to a certain extent it's unfinished business, but to a great extent it's continuing with business. I think we need to ensure that we are even more thorough in promoting behavioral change, in ensuring that health protocols that have been put into place are met, regulated properly, that the authorities actually ensure that large crowds, when they are forming, are actually stopped. We continue to promote social distancing, masking, washing of hands, and so on. It's those basic things that's going to actually help us manage the second wave. So that's on the one side. The second side is we had indicated publicly before the president's last address to the nation that it would not be appropriate to have a lockdown at this stage, and the president agreed with that in his address. COVID has had a severe economic impact besides the social and health impact. And we believe that if we are able to manage the protocols, if we are able to keep people at work where it's less difficult for a lot of people to actually meet the health protocols than it is in some of the overcrowded places where they stay, we would be able to manage what is a very, very serious situation. We also believe that some of the unfinished business is that we need to continue to interact between government and social partners to implement some of the implementable action items like sorting out the RFP for renewables, which we made progress on, like releasing spectrum, which we now have time frame for, sorting out mining exploration licenses, and those sorts of sorting out the Durban port and those sorts of issues.
Yeah.
And then government and business need to engage on some of the medium-term structural reform issues to get our economy onto a sustainable growth path, so that we begin to actually create jobs and address poverty and inequality in our country.
Yeah. To be fair, BUSA has always sounded the alarm over this crisis within our economic sector. In fact, there had been calls from a while back for the government to start creating an environment that would essentially incentivize the public sector to start making some kind of investment to ensure that there's enough capacity for things like job creation. Do you feel that now that we're here, government is taking these calls a whole lot more seriously than it ever has?
Well, I think the last month or so we've made some progress. I think that the fact that we've now made progress on the renewables, we've made progress on the spectrum, that is some progress. Our interaction with government in the last month or so has been better than it has been in the last few months. We had indicated very, very clearly that the levers do lie with government currently, and government needs to pull those levers. They're starting to pull those levers. We need to do so with much more urgency. We need to, with much more urgency, create the environment for private sector investment. It's going to be difficult because of COVID in our major trading partners. The second wave of COVID being very, very severe in our major trading partners. But at least if we begin to create that environment here, we release private sector funding internally, and those where investment is possible globally from global destinations, we make that possible.
Yeah, of course, in the backdrop is a potential addition to the crisis we're dealing with in the form of public sector wage unions pushing back against this no increase that governments, simply can't afford because in part of the COVID-19 pandemic. How best do we navigate that as we enter into the new year? A moment, if we do get there, that's likely, of course, to deal a devastating blow to our already ailing economy.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, we had released an independent report by Intellidax that actually demonstrated that our public service is amongst the better paid in a basket of 43 countries that the report looked at. So I think if you look at the data does not back up what some of the public sector unions are actually saying. I think we do need to appreciate that one of the biggest issues we need to deal with is government expenditure. And one of the biggest pots of expenditure is public sector wages. And there also seems to be no correlation between increasing wages and productivity. So this is something that the country has to deal with. We need to manage it, obviously, appropriately, but it's something that I think government need to stay the course on. We need to then look at if we, together with that, ensure that we jack up and deal more urgently with the economic reform issues and economic growth issues, then we actually get into a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious cycle.
Yeah, we're out of time, but I just want to get your thoughts on this. Of course, the country being, if you like, downgraded to a lower rung of junk status twice by two separate sovereign rating agencies this year. On a scale of 1 to 10, your confidence interval as we enter into the new year of our ability to claw back on these losses in the coming financial year?
Look, I think on a basis of 1 to 10, I've got to say between 5 and 6. I think we have the ability to do that. We need the will to do that. We have the resources in the country, we have the capacity in the country, not necessarily in government. And government needs to utilize all the capacity available in the country optimally, needs to take the hard decisions that need to be taken, and needs to create that environment for investment. If we get that, then it will at least put us onto the first rung of a long ladder to growth and recovery. But it's not going to be easy.
Absolutely. Well, there's no overstating that there perhaps has never been a more urgent time to deal with these structural economic issues. Thanks very much for your time on the AM Report and your reflections. Certainly appreciated. Cas Coovadia is CEO of Business Unity South Africa on the AM Report. I wonder what you make of that, and perhaps you can share some of your confidence intervals. Are we really able to get back to our pre-COVID-19 standard of operation, if you like, and so far as the economy is concerned? We'd love to hear from you on that one at Newsroom 405.